happy stable with, we do the same.
It's going to take about 30 minutes for the recovery team to make their way over to Nick, Sunny, Butch, and that dragon capsule was pristine, white color, before shoots were stored. So when we saw the dragon capsule dock at station, it looked very different. That was that enclosed where the drone parachutes are located. We can see those fast boats.
SpaceX is go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside in the next few minutes.
We can see those fast boats. We weren't kidding when we said they were fast. While it does take about 30 minutes for the main recovery vessel to make its way over to the capsule, these fast boats will be doing a couple of things simultaneously to retrieve the parachutes. You see in the background there of this drone shot, those parachutes will be retrieved from the ocean surface. We want to make sure we are able to pull those out. The recovery vessel there closest to the spacecraft is going to be performing some safety checks. We can see there they're using an instrument that is basically working to detect if there are any hyperduster nozzles or outlets. The hypergonic fuel, which is necessary for on-orbit. They're also checking to make sure that any residuals from the pyros are safe and are not going to cause any issues. We can see the team working their way around the spacecraft to these, basically these sniff tests on all of those Draco thrusters.
And as we continue to await the recovery of our Dragon spacecraft with NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sunny Williams, Butch and Roscosmos cosmonaut Aleksandr inside, Dragon has autonomously completed several steps to sink itself following splashdown. We are continuing to see Dragon configuration following splashdown. It's upright for the Dragon capsules in the right configuration for it to be hoisted into the recovery vessel Megan, which you do see a little ways off in front of the Dragon spacecraft. Now, if you are just joining us, the mission has gone smoothly so far. Dragon successfully splashed out off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific, 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time this afternoon.
Or nominal. Radiated in progress. Approximately 25 minutes until capsule lift. Stand by for PSC with SpaceX flight surgeon.
Communications that those hypervol checks were complete. They didn't find any of that upon those checks, so we'll continue to move through the timeline. Next up is a process called rigging, which you see happening right now on your screen. This is when a SpaceX recovery personnel actually works to climb aboard the capsule and work through the procedures ahead of lifting onto the nest of the recovery vessel Megan. We heard it's going to be about 25 minutes or so until that lift actually takes place.
Dragon drop credit.
Once they're indicating that the crew will have the opportunity to do a quick check-in with the SpaceX flight surgeon. This is standard procedure for every Dragon spacecraft when it returns to Earth. It's just an initial check-in, make sure everybody is doing okay. They will also have another check-in with the flight surgeon once they are on board that recovery vessel that you see there in the background. We can now see that SpaceX recovery fumes or vapors come out from the spacecraft. They'll also place harnessing around the spacecraft that are required in order to lift it out of the water. Good.
Continue at 2:57 p.m. Pacific, and we're now stepping through procedures to get Dragon hoisted up onto the Megan recovery vessel and get the Dragon then automatically safes any pyrotechnics that may still be present on the vehicle, and may automatically perform additional minor system reconfigurations. The astronauts will remain seated and in their suits at this point, but the onboard air conditioning keeps things
being followed by one of the main recovery vessels, which will move into position upwind of the spacecraft. The two fast boats have very specific roles. Excuse me. The first approach is focused on immediate safety inspection, as we saw. They do this
as part of the preparation for this lift. One member of the recovery team has climbed on top of the spacecraft already, so they can attach Dragon's hoist rings and connect to the lifting lines. It'll take us less than an hour to raise Dragon to the ship. We have a very special treat. NASA Public Affairs Officer Jaden Jennings was actually on the recovery vessel and had a bird's eye view of the splashdown today. Jaden, how are you? How was the view from the recovery vessel?
Hi, Sandra. How can you hear me?
I've got you loud and clear, David. It's so great to hear you.
Awesome. So, splashdown, Sandra, with nothing clear. We are transitioning forward. Tom will be unavailable for approximately 5 minutes.
Thanks so much, Jaden. We did just have some communications letting us know that we'll have about 5 minutes period where we won't be able to hear from the crew. So please go ahead and tell us how was the view from the recovery vessel.
Astro and the spacecraft was coming in, and then moments later we saw those growth tubes, and this was quickly followed by 4 healthy white orange main parachutes. We then tracked Dragon all the way down as it slowly propelled into the ocean, and I think I speak for all of us on the ship when I say a new core memory was made today, and we are looking forward to having crew not on board with us a little later.
David, that is amazing. Now, obviously, we're watching it here on camera, and the landing conditions look pretty good, but how was it from your perspective? What is the sea state out there?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've had optimal conditions for splashdown, and today it is sunny and 63 degrees outside right now with clear sky. Last year as well, we have completed our horizontal transition.
So what is next to retrieve the crew? We are continuing to get some great views on our screen, but I know you have an even better view yourself.
Oh yeah, Sandra, this view is absolutely unbeatable. So just to kind of finish off what I was saying is, once that side half of the spacecraft is open, that crew will be assisted out of the capsule one by one from NASA and SpaceX medical personnel, where they will then head to the med bay. And after those medical checks, they will get.
So we are continuing to get these great views on our screen here of Freedom. As we mentioned, it splashed down at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. The recovery personnel are continuing to step through procedures to hoist Dragon onto the recovery vessel Megan there, which is now coming into view. You can see just how close Megan is at this point, and that's that helicopter pad that Jaden to Houston.
Just underneath that helicopter pad is that translation deck where we will see the nest once it is loaded up with the Dragon spacecraft on board. The nest will be translated to the forward end of the recovery vessel, and that is where working to assist the recovery team member. It's incredible. I just love these views. We really see them even better in the daytime, but to see the recovery team work in tandem to step through each step, to step member that is crawling around the Dragon spacecraft. Earlier we saw a view where it was like a spider monkey pose. We can see that individual now standing in the bucket where the main parachutes were stored while Dragon was on orbit. Obviously, those main parachutes were utilized for splashdown today. They were deployed and cut from the Dragon capsule, and one of the other fast boats of the recovery team working to pull those out of the water. Now, the recovery team member that is there working on top of the Dragon capsule. Earlier, we saw that person performing safety checks. Now we can see the recovery vessel. Wow, we got a cute little pond of dolphins. It wasn't just one or two.
I mean, that water just looks beautiful. We had ideal splashdown parameters today. Obviously, wave height, they're a concern. The weather is beautiful, as Jaden mentioned.
It's there between Duffel Cam back again. We can see that the Dragon capsule the recovery vessel at distance is closing. Again, this is just one more step as we continue to work recovery operations for Dragon Freedom, and we anticipate the lift of the Dragon capsule to occur here in just a few minutes. Once all of the rigging is on the capsule and it's hooked up to the recovery vessel, we will see the hydraulic arm, which is that kind of like bridge-like structure there at the aft end of the recovery vessel. We'll see that articulate backwards, and that's a good sign that we're getting even closer to pulling the capsule out of the water. It will then move forward for it to be translated to the forward end of the vessel and for the astronauts to egress.
And before that does take place, we'll have potentially views of the rigger go ahead and jump off of the spacecraft there.
That typically occurs when the spacecraft is a little bit closer to the recovery vessel, and we usually get a really good view of that particular operation from one of the onboard cameras from the recovery vessel. That is an operation that I have a lot of respect and admiration for that individual that does that.
So again, Dragon continuing to knock Aleksandr forward on. They're now working through procedures to hoist the spacecraft up onto the recovery vessel Hague.
We just saw that hydraulic arm get lowered into the lifting position. That arm will be the mechanism that is utilized to lift the Dragon up and out of the water and into the nest located there at the aft end of the recovery vessel.
And the recovery vessel we use today is, as we mentioned multiple times, is named Hague, but that's actually after NASA astronaut Hague MacArthur, who flew on Crew 2 a couple of years ago. We're getting some views now from actually inside
The recovery vessel, that platform that was closest to the camera, that is the egress platform.
Freedom, rigging is almost complete. Approximately 5 minutes.
Our recovery vessel Megan.
So once securely on,
Welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are completing final checks and stand by for transition to the egress platform.
Great news there, letting us know that Dragon Freedom has been successfully recovered from the water's surface. If you've just joined us, we had an on-time splashdown at 5 and see some guidance there being provided, really steering the spacecraft properly into the Dragon's nest.
Hague, things continuing to move very smoothly today throughout the entire operations from the orbit burn up until this point as well.
And Freedom, it looks like the positioning wasn't quite right, so they are working on repositioning the capsule right now.
While Dragon does fly itself autonomously, it clearly is unable to park itself autonomously. We want to make sure that the Dragon capsule is properly seated there in that nest.
Making some final adjustments and tweaks to ensure that it's nice and secure.
They're telling us that the recovery team is doing the second round of those hyperbolic sweeps.
They will scooch up a little bit closer to the camera angle that we're seeing right here, and then teams will set through procedures to get that space station crew enter through the top hatch, which was where the nose cone is now closed. That's the hatch they actually utilize supplies to go ahead and get inside the International Space Station.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. That is a gorgeous view of Crew Dragon Freedom successfully loaded onto the recovery ship. It's going to take about 10 minutes for us to see that hatch open and that shot inside the Dragon, where we can see Butch and Sunny, Crew 9, all on board safely home, and more, all right here on the Launch Pad Network. Because we really do believe that space is better together, and we're thankful to have you here. We have people tuning in from eyes in San Diego. We got Alaska in Alaska. We got Mendozina in Sweden. Welcome. Nathaniel is in Kodiak, Alaska. Tamarice. And there is translation happening of Crew Dragon Freedom. You can see them spraying it down, making sure that it is all safe and ready for that crew to get right up next close to it. On our engine our side, we're ready to welcome home Crew 9 and Butch and Sunny as their mission finally comes to an end.
Water, so we're trying to rinse off as much of that salt water as possible. And we can see the spacecraft continuing to move closer and closer to that recovery deck.
The crew is working on side hatch opening now. Expect hatch opening in about 2 minutes. Thanks, Nick. It's been an honor.
This is a pretty exciting moment coming up. We are working to open the side hatch. And, one thing that may not be obvious from, just looking at the spacecraft here is that this side hatch that we're about to open.
And the very first person that will have the opportunity to say hello to the crew once that hatch is open is a SpaceX medical recovery personnel representative. Then we'll see procedures take place to remove the footrests of Dragon. That will just help the recovery personnel get a little bit more room to access the crew and help get them out of the spacecraft.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Safety is, once again, top priority here, and removing those will actually go into the capsule. We have to depress the seal around the side hatch, as well as, we'll now see them open that side hatch up.
And there you have it. The side hatch is open for the first time since September.
We can see some of the protective equipment there that was brought from any potential damage. Oh, we can see the recovery crew member there taking photos of the side hatch seal. This is part of the standard operation for recovery. These photos will get saved into our. If you missed it, there was also a recovery team member that went inside. So there are now 5 people on board the Dragon spacecraft.
Is when the crew will actually egress or exit the spacecraft, but before that they'll continue to, the recovery personnel rather will continue to install.
We'll probably see those footrests being handed out here. Or, of course, we gotta get a well-documented photo of the moment. Although we can't see it from here, I'm pretty sure there are 4 smiles on board right now.
We did hear that report out from the commander, Nick Hague, following splashdown that there were four smiles as far as he could see.
Yeah, capsule full of grins. Speaking of...
And there we do see Crew 9, some happy waves, smiles all around back on Earth.
We have the individuals in the 2 center seats of leg of the crew members, we can see those being handed out to the recovery team. Those had to be stored and secured prior to dynamic operations.
It looks like we are starting to see the footrests also be removed. I just saw one there on the screen. There are 4, of course, one for each crew member.
Fiber are actually sized appropriately for each crew member, as everybody has different measurements and different leg lengths. Same goes for the armrests and the bucket length of each seat. We size those appropriately. I believe we just saw the little ramp that is used to
Go to a medical bay for medical checkups. This is standard procedure for all Dragon spacecraft flights that splash down crude, as well as for our Soyuz spacecraft that
the capsule, when it has some of that charring from atmospheric reentry, it is the signature sign of a capsule that has returned to Earth.
just yesterday, so it's about 17 hours of phasing. Finals, thumbs up.
Standard procedure for all of our long duration crew members to receive assistance upon progressing from the spacecraft. We basically help them move off of the recovery deck and into the private medical quarters for their initial consultation with the SpaceX flight surgeon. So we'll see that take place for all 4 of our crew members today.
And we are standing by for the next crew members. Next up, Aleksandr, his first space flight. Spent 171 days in space alongside NASA astronaut Nick Hague.
Looks like we're getting some cheers and clapping on board as Aleksandr is slid down the little ramp and placed into the mobility aid. Again, big smile. Inside the spacecraft, there's a recovery crew member inside that is helping all of our Crew 9 crew egress or exit from the spacecraft.
Really have the recovery operations down pretty quick at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to think that just 5 years ago when we were doing the initial demonstration missions of the Dragon, for Crew Dragon, that now we're under, for those of you that have just recently joined, the Dragon had upon a time splashdown. It looks like we're getting our next crew member here. That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile, big waves. She, like her other crew members now, will be assisted onto the mobility aid.
There we have it, some waves, some thumbs up, and some smiles.
Definitely seems to be 4.
We're getting some views of him now as he egresses or exits the spacecraft.
Once again, some elation and cheers there from Butch Wilmore, as we mentioned before, returning to Earth coming from a microgravity environment.